Hello everyone, welcome to Narain's Eye with MS. This is Narain and it's Thursday, which means that it should go to Thoughtful Thursday. But since we are at Throwback Week, I thought I would take another video that I used to have, which is Treatment Tuesdays. Now, before you come at me, I realize, or at least I realized earlier today, that if I'd done favorite things Thursday today, it would have made a little more sense than doing that on Tuesday. But it's done, right? We can't do anything about it. So yes, it's time for treatment Thursday. And so considering that, I have just actually completed or at least stopped going to my physiotherapy gym, I thought I'd kind of give one episode for that and what were my main reasons for leaving the gym behind and actually starting yoga again. So essentially, the gym, I mean, as a start, the gym was great. I mean, because the whole point when I started gymming, which was, I want to say it was September 2024, I believe, when I started. So, or maybe it was 2023. Well, one of those years. Um, I think it was 24 though. So when I started, essentially I had trouble walking. I could not walk. My leg would do this thing, especially my left leg would do this thing where it would kind of spin. So it was pretty much that it wasn't moving, and as a result, I was pretty much frozen in place. And definitely, I would say for the first, I want to say 6 months, that definitely did improve. I was able to walk. I definitely gained a bit of strength as well, which I knew was lacking in me. And it did end up helping me at least get a little bit of confidence back, which was something that I had lost for a few years, right? I think my walking, my mobility was definitely severely impacted around 2022, early 2022. And since then, I had just noticed a slow but progressive decline in my ability to walk and my ability to actually move around. And it had gotten to the point where I really don't think I was actually walking on my feet when when I was pretty much doing anything. So as a result, did end up joining the gym, and it definitely helped for a very long time. But I want to say lately, one thing that was happening was, definitely there were more, there was a bigger push to get me to, do weight training, build muscle. And sure, I'm happy with the fact that I did end up developing some amount of muscle in my body. But at the same time, I think the intention of building that muscle was to essentially build something that could, that I could maybe use to, walk. And it was not doing that. It wasn't helping me. And in fact, working so much on, doing the muscle building part, I also realized that I was not maybe completing exercises to the same extent I could. So it was even shortening, it was actually making some muscles a little shorter, which ended up, actually making me more, uh, more uh, like closer to getting, like, it was just easier to get hurt for me. I was more prone to injuries as a result. And I think the injuries really started around, I want to say February, when, I had that um, injury in my back because I had, stretched a little too much during, um, I think it was during core. And then after that, um, you know, right after I came back from Goa, had like a very small scratch on the top of my foot, and that became infected. And somehow, while trying to fix the infection, I also realized that I had torn a ligament in my ankle, which means that my ankles were a little weak. Definitely, I knew that because I had this almost nerve like pain happening on my knee when I would stand up. It also meant that my knee was probably weak as well, and definitely felt the same thing about my hip, which meant that maybe the gym wasn't, at least at this point in time, wasn't maybe where I should be. And that is why I made the conscious decision of literally quitting the gym and then starting yoga the next day. And the one thing that I have noticed doing yoga is that, yes, there are certain improvements that I have noticed, but it is going to be a long journey, especially with yoga, to pretty much get back the amount of flexibility, the amount of endurance, and the amount of strength that I want yoga to provide me. So that pretty much covers essentially why I started going to the physiotherapy gym in the first place, to the point where I said, okay, fine, it's time to find another outlet to um, pretty much figure out the next stage of my well-being and improvement. So that pretty much covers this episode of Treatment Thursday. I know it sounds weird, but it is what it is, right? And I think I'll call it Treatment Tuesday, and then I'll put Thursday in brackets, and it'll still be with that group, um, or at least it will be in that playlist. But yes, one thing I definitely did want to say is that saying all of this, I definitely know that joining the gym, when I joined the gym, was an important part. It was definitely needed. And just like you sort of outgrow your clothes, which I also do from time to time, um, you also outgrow, or pretty much, some form of activity just becomes, uh, does not provide you the same benefit that it should. And so that is what I wanted to leave you with. But I do want to hear what your thoughts are on, you know, this treatment, right? The treatment of, going to a physiotherapy gym, doing that, and then, actually quitting that to start something else. I do want to, know what your thoughts, your insights, what your experiences are, so that we can get a conversation started. But of course, with all of that said, this is Narain's Life with MS. I am Narain, and here's wishing you a good night, sweet dreams, and I will catch you tomorrow. Bye.